Welcome to Real Life with Jenny. My name's Jenny Sadabaratna. Grab your favorite drink, get a snack, and we will get started. Today I have a lump that used to be cotton candy, and it is kind of more of a rock, but it's still sugar. So there we are. And I have some just Earl Grey tea. So let's get real. Today I want to talk a little bit about something that my daughter experienced in the last few days. And normally I share my own stories. I have gotten permission to share this story because I may not portray it in the best way because it's her story, not mine. But I'm going to share the story because I have a 17-year-old who is a senior in high school, and she's extremely independent and very responsible, and just one of those kids that you just go, wow, I cannot believe that she's my child, because she really does a great job in life. Like, she really does. I am just so impressed with her. And sometimes I'm like, I don't even, that you must be listening to your dad, because if you're listening to me, you would not be like this. Like, and so she is walking through the year of your lasts, right? It's your last prom. It's your last time taking this high school class. It's your last retreat. It's your last camp. It's your last high school, all those things. And so she's walking through that right now. And so she went to this retreat. And let me clarify that her father, all of our lives, all of my life, has been an instigator. Like, he loves to push people into doing things that maybe they wouldn't necessarily think of. He will come up with a great idea and get other people to do it. Like, that is something he's very good at. And so when I was in high school, he got my two quiet friends, his two guy friends, and they were my friends at that time too, up in front of the whole camp of 400 to 500 kids, and taught them and all saying Father Abraham together. And I remember thinking, these boys don't talk to people one-on-one, let alone in front of an entire crowd. And they both got up and sang Father Abraham. And the entire place, well, not the entire place, but a lot of people joined in, and it was really fun. So she has been raised with that. Like, let's just be very clear that that's something that she, instigating is something she's been taught how to do. And she's always looking for adventure. Like, that is something that I love about her. She is not content with just the status quo. She is always looking for something new and better. And I love that, because I'm so often just kind of content, right? I'm just kind of like, it's humdrum, it's fine, but if I did anything else, I'd have to work at it. And she's like, I'm going to work at it and I'm going to make it better, which is also her father. So she goes to this retreat, and in 6th grade, she had a conversation. There were 4 girls, and they were in her group, and she's remained friends with all the 4 of them have remained friends. And so they had decided they were going to sneak out, because the boys had snuck out that year and threw acorns at their door or something, windows or whatever. And they didn't, because they were like, we're not breaking the rules because we want to continue to come back. So they kind of had made an idea that they were going to sneak out their senior year. Like, that's what they were going to do. In fact, last year was their junior year. They talked about it. She told me about it. I knew this was going to happen. Like, I tried to talk her into some sense, those kind of moments of like, I don't think this is a good plan. There's reason, there's rules there, on and on and on. So she comes home and she's telling me about her retreat with her eyes half slitted open. And she's talking about the time at the altar and what she's praying about and what God said to her. And, she's sharing about all the adventures her and her friends did, and who they talked to, and who she met, and who she got closer to, and, the whole gamut. And now my husband's out of town at this time. He's in Wisconsin. And so his first question is always, what time did you go to sleep? And my question is always the last question, what time did you go to sleep? Because I really don't want to know. Because I know it was later than it probably should have been. But she said the first night they went to bed around 1 or 2 in the morning. And I was like, okay, that's 6 to 7 hours of sleep. better than you normally get. That's pretty good. And she was like, well, the next night was a little different. And I'm like, okay, tell me about different. She's like, well, we were up talking till around 3 a.m. And I said to all the girls, okay, let's sneak out. And they're like, no, Sam, it's late. And she's like, come on, guys, it's our senior year. There were like 6 of them that were seniors in that specific room. And she's like, come on, guys, it's our last year. Let's go. My instigating daughter, right? And they're like, no, Sam, we're going to sleep. So everybody lays down. And so she's in her bed feeling the feels of this is her last retreat. And her anxiety starts getting a little bit high. And she's feeling really overwhelmed. And so she leaves the room and goes out into like the lobby area of this retreat. And she said, I was just sitting there. And one of the younger boys came over and was like, what are you doing here? And she was like, I don't know. What are you doing here? Neither of us are supposed to be out of our rooms. And he was like, yeah, but you're the last one I would have thought would have snuck out. And she was like, well, I'm here. And he was like, oh, okay. And he went to go find his friends because there were a bunch of them that had snuck out. And so they're off. And so Sam decided to leave the building and walk to the swings. And so she walked to the swings in her bare feet, may I add, which I'm not real sure that was our brightest idea. Sneaking out's also not. I mean, we've dealt with that issue, so like that's beside the point. But she got to the swings, and she said she just started praising God and praying. And because she was feeling so overwhelmed that everything would be over, right? And there was just a sense of loss and anxiety and feeling overwhelmed. And she said, I just prayed. And I just let it all out to God. And then I got up and I did a prayer walk around the camp 2 or 3 times. And she said, I took videos of what God was telling me, and I took some photos just to remind me of that presence of God as I walked around the camp. And that was about 45 minutes that she was out of the room. She went back in the room around 3:45, fell asleep by 4. Now, the next morning, she's at breakfast with all of her girlfriends, and she decided not to tell anyone that she had snuck out because she didn't see anyone other than this boy. And so the boy and his friends came over, and they're like, oh, who'd you sneak out with? Because they sneak out every year. And he's like, oh, so-and-so and so-and-so and Samantha. And they're like, not Samantha. And Samantha's like, yeah, I did. And they're like, no, you didn't. So she shows them the picture. And they're like, no, for real. Like, you really snuck out. For real. Like, everybody's completely shocked. And she's like, yeah, I did. And it was actually my favorite part of the retreat. And I love that because it wasn't necessarily the sneaking out. It was the meeting with God. It was that moment that she was quietly seeking after the Lord in the midst of the turmoil of unanswerable questions. And what's super funny to me, not funny because God is so gracious and so loving, that at 3 a.m., my husband is in Wisconsin and I was at home, and both of us were woken up at 3 in the morning to pray for her. And I was up from 3 to probably 3:45 praying for her. And I know Kevin was praying for a significant amount of time for her too. Because God just knew. God knew that he needed to pour into her. And so we were up praying too. And I had no idea because I was actually going to text her and say, hey, if you're still up, go to sleep. And I decided not to. I don't know why. I was like, because I don't really want to, like, I don't know why God has me up. And so she was actually telling a girlfriend the other day that she snuck out and then did the prayer walk. And she was like, Samantha, I love you, but you, of all people, that is exactly how you would do a sneak out. You would sneak out to go pray. Like, and I love that that is how people see her. That people are shocked, first of all, that she's breaking a rule. And is that been dealt with? Absolutely, but that's not the point of this. But that she broke out so she could be with God because she was feeling overwhelmed and she didn't know how to find him in that place with all the girls like sleeping around her. She didn't know how to cry out to God in that place. And it was such an inspiration to me when she was telling this story that, you know, you're kind of like this proud mom moment and also like, oh snap, you broke the rules. That's probably not a good plan. You know, you have both of those things. But it was an inspiration because I can sometimes just get so stuck and worried about what other people think, and that I will not step out and do a prayer walk when I need to do a prayer walk because I just get stuck in the midst of these overwhelming emotions. And whether it's anxiety or depression or lack of joy or just being overwhelmed, there are just so many emotions that can just burst in on you, and you can get so overwhelmed and so bogged down that they can become almost a reality, when you can just step out and go, God, I need you. And that's what she did. She stepped out and said, God, I need you. I do not see my future. I do not understand what is ahead of me. I do not. Someone was actually praying for her at the altar and said, there is better for you ahead. You just have to believe. And she was like, God, there's something better ahead for me. And I'm like, yes, I wouldn't go back to high school if you paid me. Like, I have told her a million times, elementary, middle school's better, and then high school's better, and then college is better, and then 20s, 30s, 40s. I've never been in my 50s, but I can't imagine they can't get better. It does get better. Like, some things are kind of yucky, like paying bills and things like that. But life really does get better. I wouldn't want to go back to my high school years for maybe for $1 million. It matters on how broke I feel that week. But it was not a fun time in my life. And life just has gotten better. And she just doesn't see that. But God met her because she stepped out and she said, I will find something bigger than these emotions right now. I will not be run by this current circumstance. I am going to go beyond it. And that was such an inspiration to me because I can just get so caught up in that. And she was like, I'm not going to get caught up. I'm going to do something about this. So my friends aren't going to sneak out. We've been talking about this since 6th grade. They won't follow through. I will. And was that breaking the rules? Yes. But sometimes in our lives, we need to step out because we know that's what's going to be best for us. And we're afraid to because no one else will. They've talked about it. They have come up with plans and they don't. And sometimes you have to step out and say, I am going to go after what I want. And I'm going to go after the Lord with everything I am and see what God can do. Well, that's all I have for you this week. I hope you feel inspired by my daughter breaking the rules, but know that it's truth. Like, don't get caught up in that situation. Step out and see what God can do if you put it in His hands. You can find me at Real Life with Jenny on Instagram, Facebook, and Be Real. You can also find me at christconnection.cc/Jen. I do not encourage anyone to sneak out. Let me be very clear. If you are a teenager and there is a rule there, follow that rule. There's a reason that rule is in place. And yes, we have talked to our daughter about that. But also, don't let that hold you back as an adult. Don't let it hold you back from what God wants for you in your life. Have a great week.